If you can't care for my sister, we're getting a divorce. It's been 2 months since my sister-in-law, Mary, returned from overseas and started staying at our house. I was being exploited by her day after day, and the stress was building up. I decided to talk with my husband to see if there was any way to resolve it, but he turned red with anger and demanded a divorce. I argued that it was an excessive leap to come to such a conclusion, but he refused to listen to my words. Let's have a proper discussion about what we should do moving forward. There's nothing to discuss. My sister will stay in this house as long as she wants. Frustration grew inside me as my husband casually uttered those words, and I couldn't bear it any longer. Eventually, it escalated into a big argument. Mary witnessed our situation, and not only did she fail to intervene and stop us, but she also smirked with satisfaction. It was obvious that she was the cause of all this. I had no idea what she was thinking. 2 months ago, Mary, who was married abroad, got divorced and returned to New York. She lost custody of her children to her ex-husband and was deeply heartbroken. She decided to live in a hotel instead of moving back in with her parents to avoid their probing. Eventually, she started coming over to our house occasionally, saying she was lonely. About a week had passed since Mary had started visiting, when one day I returned home from work and my husband stopped me from entering my own room. "Hold on, don't just barge in there." "Huh? Why?" "I can't have my sister living in a hotel forever, so I decided to let her use this room." He had decided to not only let Mary move in, but to let her use my room without discussing it with me. All my personal belongings were still in the room. "This is a problem. You should have discussed it with me first." "You're such a petty woman. Why can't you just tell her to make herself at home? Mary didn't just get divorced, she lost her children, too." I felt guilty, as if I were the one in the wrong when he scolded me like that. As I stayed silent at a loss for words, he told me to make sure to always knock before entering the room. From that day on, Mary started using my room as if it were hers, and started treating me like a housemaid. "You came home late. I'm hungry, so hurry up and make me dinner." "I had dinner pre-cooked, so it will be ready soon." "I'll be playing a game in my room, so call me when it's ready." After preparing the meal, I knocked on the door and called her. She quickly came out, but grimaced at the sight of the meal I prepared. "Spaghetti with meatballs? You know I don't like pasta. I can't eat that. Make me a steak with a full set of side dishes." "I don't have the ingredients, and it'll take a long time to make." "Then never mind. Can you order takeout?" "I've already made pasta for 3, so bear with it today." "No way. Order takeout now." What do I do? My husband insisted that I should just go along with his stubborn sister, but I was at a loss. If I dared to express my feelings, he told me, "Think about Mary's feelings," which left me unable to retort. Mary, knowing her brother was on her side, started waking me up in the middle of the night. "I want ice cream. Go buy it now." "Huh? What time is it?" 2 a.m. The convenience store at the gas station should be open, right? Come on, get up." I was just about to fall asleep. I have work tomorrow, so give me a break. Whenever I refused, she immediately ran to my husband and tattled on me, resulting in me getting scolded and ultimately having to go get ice cream in the middle of the night. Mary never bothered to clean up after meals or help with any household chores whatsoever. On top of that, she orders me to clean her room every day. Just to be clear, her room refers to my room that she has been using. Day by day, her demands toward me escalated. Now she was asking me for money. "Sorry, that's not possible. If anything, go ask your brother." "I can't believe you're refusing. I'm going to tell my brother again. Are you okay with that?" I'd been following her orders, knowing the difficulties she's been through, but if I gave her the money now, I knew she would keep asking for more money in the future. That day, for the first time, I stood my ground and refused to be bossed around by my sister-in-law. Of course, the moment my husband got home from work, she tearfully accused me of harassing her. "Catherine, why did you make my sister cry?" I simply refused because she asked for money. Plus, she doesn't do any household chores, and on top of that, she treats me like a housemaid. I'm emotionally exhausted. It's been over 2 months since she moved into our home. Can't you do something about it? "Shut up. If you can't care for my sister, we're getting a divorce." My husband turned red with anger and demanded a divorce. I argued that it was an excessive leap to come to such a conclusion, but he refused to listen to my words. Let's have a proper discussion about what we should do moving forward. There's nothing to discuss. My sister will stay in this house as long as she wants." Frustration grew inside me as my husband casually uttered those words, and I couldn't bear it any longer. Eventually, it escalated into a big argument. Mary witnessed our situation, and not only did she fail to intervene and stop us, but she also smirked with satisfaction. It was obvious she was the cause of all this. I had no idea what she was thinking. Mary uttered terrifying words to me. "I'm going to make you regret it. I'm Catherine, currently 27 years old. I'm being constantly manipulated by my sister-in-law. My parents divorced when I was still young due to my father's infidelity. My mother, who raised me as a single parent, passed away from breast cancer when I was 19. Since then, although I had friends, the loneliness of not having a family could never be filled, and I lived carrying that loneliness in secret. It was during those days that I met my husband, Bob. After a year of us being together, we solidified our relationship 3 years ago. The excitement of our early days of marriage has faded, but since getting married, I've been grateful for the presence of a family. Despite this, Bob recently lost his enthusiasm for work, quit his job on his own accord, and has become a part-time worker for 3 days a week. To add to my worries, my sister-in-law, Mary, rolled into our lives. Mary was already married and living abroad by the time Bob and I got married. She was pregnant with her first child, so she couldn't come to our wedding. We never had the opportunity to meet because we were so far away. I've always heard from my mother-in-law that she was a kind and considerate daughter, so I never expected her to be so selfish, leaving me perplexed and bewildered. Her behavior continued to escalate. When I came home from work the following day, Mary was grinning with a handful of bills in her hands. The amount of money she had seemed too large to have been given by Bob. "Mary, what's with all that money?" "I sold some bags and jewelry I found in the bedroom." "Wait, you mean my room?" "Where else would they be?" I immediately rushed into my room and opened the closet, but found my mother's heirloom bags and jewelry were nowhere to be found. Mary laughed hysterically as she saw me coming out of the room in a panic. "Why did you sell my stuff?" "Because you wouldn't give me any allowance." "Don't mess around. Those were family heirlooms from my mother." "Good, so you didn't need them anymore." "That's not the point. Where did you sell them? Tell me right now." "Geez, chill out. It was this place called Super Thrift Shop, but I doubt you can get them back." I headed straight to the thrift shop to buy back the items. She just sold them today, so they still should be undergoing maintenance. It shouldn't be too late to buy them back. When I arrived at the thrift shop, I was confronted with a shocking truth. They had a rule they could only return the items to the person who sold them, unless there was proof that the items were stolen. There was nothing I could do without the proper evidence. I was aware of this rule, but I was so caught up in the moment that it slipped my mind. As I trudged back home, a burning desire for revenge against my sister-in-law consumed me. I will get to the bottom of this. First, I'll start by cleaning my room. Another week had passed. I found myself still at the mercy of my demanding and self-centered sister-in-law, enduring my husband's anger along the way. Finally, the time for the decisive battle had arrived. Like any other day, Mary treated me like a housemaid, and my patience was thin. As the evening approached, I ended up getting into an argument with Bob. "Like I've said before, I can't go on like this if you don't treat my sister better." "Are you threatening me with divorce again?" "If you don't change your attitude toward Mary, I might have to." Lately, it seemed like Bob believed as if he brought up divorce, I would stay silent and obey. As usual, he looked down on me with arrogance, and Mary stood next to him, laughing. That was when the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find my mother-in-law standing there. "Long time no see, Catherine. Can I come in?" "I'm happy you came. Please come in." "Mom, why are you here?" Upon seeing his mother, I noticed my husband's expression seemed to darken. My sister-in-law, instead of expressing joy at the long-awaited reunion, didn't even show a smile on her face. Why was she behaving like this when her own mother was here to visit? "Oh my, I didn't know you had a friend over." My mother-in-law, upon seeing Mary, said such a thing. "What are you talking about? She's your daughter, isn't she?" "Oh, stop joking. Mary just had her second child. She actually recently sent me some photos." My mother-in-law took out her cell phone and showed me a photo of the real Mary, who was still happily married overseas. The person in the photo was completely different from the woman standing in front of us, claiming to be Mary. As the woman tried to leave the living room in a flustered manner, my mother-in-law sternly stopped her. So, who are you? Well, I am a friend. Yeah, she's my friend. The lie was apparent from their panicky expressions. That's when I revealed her true identity. So you aren't Mary after all. I've always thought it was odd. You must be Bob's mistress. What are you talking about? Don't spout nonsense. I couldn't let him deceive us at this point. I immediately showed my mother-in-law a video saved on my laptop of the two of them getting cozy in my living room. Bob attempted to snatch the laptop away from his mother to prevent her from seeing it, but I intervened to stop him. What is this? You better have a good explanation. What should I say? Taking over for my stumbling husband, I revealed the whole truth to my mother-in-law. Bob has been letting this woman, whom he claims to be Mary, stay at our house for over 2 months out of pity for her having gone through a divorce and losing custody of her child. On top of that, this woman sold my mother's heirlooms at a thrift shop without my consent. The footage went out, capturing this woman appearing cheerfully and excited, mentioning that she made money from selling my mother's heirlooms. She even suggested to my husband that they go out and have fun with the money. How could she do such a terrible thing? So, what's happened to the heirlooms? They can only return it to the person who sold it, so it's currently being kept at the thrift shop. After informing my mother-in-law, I turned to the woman who seemed quite uncomfortable. You are Megan Foster, aren't you? No, you're wrong. Don't make baseless accusations. Do you have any evidence? It's pointless to play innocent. You may not have known, but I happen to be the manager of the super thrift shop. Huh? I didn't see you there. I wasn't at the shop on the day my mother's heirlooms were sold because I was attending a meeting at headquarters. Being the manager of the shop, I was able to verify the ID of the person who sold the items. That's how I realized the woman was not my sister-in-law. But I had no definite proof, and I was afraid she might come up with excuses, so I decided to come up with a plan. My mother-in-law had been wanting to go watch a performance by her favorite artist, so I decided to buy tickets for her. The plan was to ask her to come pick up the tickets, invite her to stay the night at our house so she wouldn't have to travel back. Unaware of the situation, she was thrilled, and that's how we got to today. I'm sorry for making you come here without telling you the truth. That's all right. I understand it's not easy for you to talk about this. By the way, how did you manage to capture the footage? I didn't want my belongings being sold without my permission again, so I installed some light bulb-shaped hidden cameras in my room while cleaning. I had a vague suspicion that she might be an affair partner, but I never expected something like this. Sure enough, the footage showed the two of them getting intimate when I wasn't around. It was quite a shock when I first saw the footage, but Bob and I had been arguing whenever we spoke to each other, so I had been thinking it might be time to call it quits. But still, it's tough to witness your husband having an affair. Catherine, Mom, I was just being manipulated by this woman. How pathetic of you to say that, lying about her being your sister and letting her stay at our house. What were you thinking? Don't blame this on me. I only pretended to be your sister because if we were caught having an affair, I would be kicked out of the house with nowhere to go. You keep your mouth shut. Besides, you were the one who said it would be convenient for me to use your wife as a housemaid. You even said that if you end up getting a divorce as the result of marital issues, you wouldn't be charged with alimony. I was taken aback and filled with rage upon learning that Bob had said all of this. Now that your relationship has fallen apart, it's impossible to mend things as a couple. Why don't you guys get a divorce? Then you and I can live happily ever after, right, Bob? Sure. You've always wanted a divorce from me, so let's part ways. I've already prepared this, so file it when you're done filling it out. As I handed Bob the divorce papers with my name already filled in, he started to panic. Don't rush things. I have no intention of leaving you. Please, just let this one thing slide. The sight of Bob begging on his knees before me was truly pitiful. His mistress turned to him, teary-eyed. You won't abandon me, will you? You know I have nowhere else to go if I get kicked out of here. Shut up. Don't come near me. Bob forcefully brushed off the woman clinging to him. Yet the sight of the woman pleading not to break up was so tragic, it made me feel uncomfortable. In place of my husband, who didn't even spare a glance for her, I conveyed something important. You don't have to worry about where to go. Huh? Where? The police. I reported you earlier for stealing and selling my belongings. They should be arriving here any minute. I'll go back to the thrift shop right away and get your things back, so please tell them it was a mistake. As the sound of the police sirens grew closer, the woman, realizing the situation, apologized to me for the first time. "I'm really sorry. I've learned my lesson. I won't do it again." If apologizing was all it took, then we wouldn't need the police, would we? I presented the woman to the police as the one who stole and sold my belongings. She was soon taken away. Bob, who had been staring blankly at the scene, began to beg on his knees again once the police had left. "Don't leave me. Your salary is higher than mine. If you abandoned me, I wouldn't be able to survive. You understand that, right?" You don't have to live a lavish lifestyle. And besides, you should work more than just 3 days a week. Either way, you're going to have to work more to pay me alimony. "I'll pay the alimony, but can't we find a way to avoid a divorce?" "No chance. My mind is made up. Sign the divorce papers, now." Under my scolding, with the urging of my mother-in-law, Bob reluctantly signed the divorce papers. "Hey, about the alimony. Can you deduct it from our division of assets?" "There are no assets that we have built together." "But you have a decent amount of savings." "My savings are from before we got married, so they're not for us to split. In fact, since we got married, I've been covering most of our living expenses, so it's in the red for me." Upon hearing my words, my husband turned pale, but ignoring that, my mother-in-law and I kicked him out of the house. After getting rid of the villain, we couldn't shake off a somewhat melancholic feeling. That evening, the two of us sat together, sharing drinks and having a heartfelt conversation. My mother's heirloom bags and jewelry were safely returned to me later, with enough proof showing that they were stolen. My divorce with Bob was quickly finalized, and I demanded $20,000 each in alimony from Bob and his mistress. Bob was disowned by his in-laws. He had also broken up with his mistress, who was already let out of jail, as they were constantly arguing. My mother-in-law, worried about me being alone, reached out to me every once in a while. Through this incident, I felt our bond was stronger than ever. Fast forward 3 years, and I'm standing in a chapel wearing a wedding dress. I held the hand of the man who'd been waiting eagerly for me to walk down the aisle as we vowed to love each other for eternity. I felt a trickle of happiness fall down my cheeks.